It's the second night of a back-to-back and the final game of the Sixers season-long 6-game homestand. Joel Embiid is out. Could Paul George be in? We'll update you shortly right here as we get things underway on the PHLY Sixers pregame show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app using code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck, live from the arena. Maybe at the end of the pregame show, get some updates there because it looks like Rich Hoffman, Devon Gibbons, Bree, all of you. Paul George in, Rich? Looks like it?
Looks like he's in tonight. Derek said he's available.
Well, there you go. Right off the top, we give you some updates on the 76ers lineup tonight. Paul George is in, so I guess he's going to have that pinky all wrapped up. Get ready to get out there and play against the Miami Heat. He should be fresh.
Stretch it out.
That stretch out the pinky. Pinky P. Pinky P is back. So we'll get into that a little bit. We'll talk about our Bet365 picks a little bit later as well. We'll speak about Joel Embiid and everybody else for this particular one. The NBA trade deadline is 3 p.m. tomorrow, so we are less than 24 hours away from that. We'll discuss that a tad bit because things did happen today. The Sixers are in the news still. Nothing has happened outside of what we're about to talk about, but their name in terms of being attached to other players are still out there. Former Sixers on the move as well. We'll talk about all that here on the pregame show, and we'll have our postgame show a little bit later. We do have to tell you, Bree, the deal is still going on currently, right, at $36. Right, Rich? The deal is still ongoing. So with the deal, everybody, want to tell everyone from the top, just to let everyone know that we're having a big deal right now that you need to take advantage of with the birds in the big game here. We got to tell you about our great deal, $36 for the full year, $3 a month to become a diehard member. Diehard, jump on in. It's the last time we ran a deal like this. It went crazy. Many people signing up, and we encourage you all to do so with the Sixers ahead of the trade deadline. Rich's newsletter, thoughts on the trade deadline. You have the Eagles in the bowl. Zach is just pushing out all kinds of stories every day. Bo, Fran, Les Bowen, Pat McClure, everybody involved with the birds, with all the great content. Make sure you sign up, become a diehard member. Flyers, Charlie O'Connor, of course. Pitchers and catchers already there, man. So we might.
It's going to be like 2 days after the Super Bowl.
Exactly. Yeah. So take advantage of this $36 deal right now, the Die Hard deal. Become a member and be a part of. And you can get some shirts, man. Look at this. Look at this.
Some shirts.
So get some shirts. Look at this shirt here. Let me move the mic out the way as Bree is doing a great job as always. So check out the PHLY merch. Remember, you're a Seinfeld guy. Remember, look at Rich.
There we go.
Road to victory. Shirt. Road to victory. Remember Seinfeld when Elaine had the Christmas card and she accidentally showed,
yes.
And Kramer and Jerry were like, look, we have him too. It's all good. That's how I looked just now showing off the shirt. All right, let's get to it, man. KJ Martin, the deal that Kyle Neubeck broke yesterday, saying that he was officially out for yesterday's game, left the arena because there was a pending trade with multiple teams inquiring about KJ Martin and the Sixers deciding on which way they wanted to go. And when we woke up this morning, the news broke that he was, in fact, traded to the Detroit Pistons along with 2 second-round picks.
With 2 second-round picks.
Not the Sixers getting picks back, sending out 2 more picks to go along with KJ Martin to the Detroit Pistons, who, by the way, the Sixers will play in Detroit on Friday evening. We'll have the pregame show and the postgame as well for that. So, Rich, we knew the trade was coming. Kyle did give us an inclination of what this deal would look like. As per usual, he was correct. And your thoughts on this deal, moving a player and picks, getting nothing in return but some cap space?
I hate it. I hate it so much, Devon. And, it's funny. I want to be fair to Josh Harris here because, we have, if you watch our Eagles show and you watched the show a couple weeks ago, we had a bunch of Josh Harris cutouts on some ping pong paddles. Anyway, don't worry about it. Anyway, he has been a target of ire, I would say, in the PHLY offices. We have been tough on him recently. And this is a scenario where I would say 2 things coming into it. Number one, the Sixers are not very good this year. So the conventional wisdom would be they're not good enough to pay the luxury tax because they are the number 11 seed currently in the Eastern Conference. And the second thing is, I don't know enough of the current CBA rules off the top of my head now, so that is where I will defer to Derek. I thought, okay, maybe there would be a team building positive to moving KJ Martin in this manner. And the Sixers, they got out ahead of it. They were leaking, hey, this move is all about, it's about flexibility, it's about future and all that stuff. You can tell that they were pretty cognizant of what the reaction would be in Philadelphia, pretty sensitive about that because of all the photoshops of the luxury tax banners hanging in the Sixers rafters at the Wells Fargo Center. But I read Derek today. He wrote a piece, again, $36, diehard deal. It's on the site, and you should all do the same. Get out of here with these flexibility ideas. There's no flexibility that they got from this. It actually hurts their flexibility, man. Except in one specific way that we will get to in a sec. So I feel now no shame in wanting to share this tweet. Bree, do you have it ready? The tweet that I sent you earlier. When you have the money bag emojis up there, Devon, I don't care. It's bad, man. The money bag emojis, it's like the opposite of why you would want to be a fan and want to root for a team. Oh, Josh Harris saved $14 million and then $17 million and then another $10 million. Like, it's just ridiculous. That's the only reason this move was made. Let's be honest about it. It actually hurt their flexibility. I kind of wondered about the repeater tax, right? Because you don't want to be in the luxury tax multiple years in a row. And as Derek pointed out, yeah, okay, this keeps the clock fresh. But then again, they haven't paid it for 3 years now. That's why those photoshops of all the banners hanging in the rafters, they've done this before. They have ducked the tax. And that repeater tax, Devon, it does not kick in until you're in the luxury tax 3 out of the last 4 years. So, I mean, yeah, okay, they reset the clock by another year, but I mean, like, if they wanted to be in it, it would have been fine. They're not in any danger of paying that repeater tax. That's number one. Number two, as Derek also pointed out, this has nothing to do with re-signing Guerschon Yabusele. Nothing. And you know why? And I probably should have thought of this last night, but this is something that even you and I can talk out, and we know. KJ Martin's deal for next year was not guaranteed. So if they wanted to re-sign Guerschon Yabusele, they could have said, all right, we're just not going to pick up the option and not trade 2 second-round picks to do so. But they didn't do that because KJ Martin's contract mattered for the luxury tax this year. Clearly did, and they got under. I mean, they could have traded KJ at the draft. Like, they could have had much more, as Sam Hinkie would call it, optionality, flexibility, whatever you want to call it. They could have had all that stuff, and now that's gone. Now that's not only gone with KJ's matching salary, which, as we know, in the current like restrictive salary cap era, you need that. That was the point of the balloon payment. You have some salary to match so you can go get another guy. They don't have that, and then they threw 2 second-round picks out the window as well. So that's frustrating to me. So you might say, what did they actually get from this trade? Besides just losing KJ Martin and 2 second-round picks. They got a trade exception, which they're probably not going to use. It's not that big. Trade exceptions sound good, but typically they don't often get used. The other thing that they got, and this is actually a real thing, they are now able to sign expensive buyout players. Basically, the rules are if you are over the luxury tax, you cannot sign a buyout player that was making over the league average salary, so over $12.5 million. Now, they don't have to do that. They're under the apron and the luxury tax, so they can sign one of those players now should they become available. And this is where I ask you, do you have any names that interest you, that intrigue you? Because I think we're going to be hearing about these guys over the coming weeks.
Not yet. Of course, the names that we have heard, simple names like Ben Simmons, he might become available. Do you have any interest in Ben Simmons? I really don't. I mean,
that was one of the 2 names I had. That one's more of it's like a fun thought experiment. I'm not
and there's a lot to
about
that one. Yeah, there's a lot to that. Of course, the player that we knew is no longer that player.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tough to just simply say, yes, bring him back. So that one, I really don't. If they did it, of course, it's a cool story, and he could help out off the bench in a big man role, help ball handling a little bit, and do some of those things, rebounding that we know. But you also still don't know if he's going to be available because of the back issue that he's been dealing with. So that's one piece of it. And who's the other name that you did have?
The other name I had as an expensive player who, if they got this guy
as a buyout,
okay, has not been bought out yet. So, we don't know if he's going to be free, but it's been a name.
West or East?
East.
Big name?
Big name, yeah.
Chris Middleton?
No. It's funny. He was rumored a little bit as a buyout. That's a good thought, but he has a player option for next year. He just got moved. If nobody saw that, he got moved to Washington today.
Which we were going to get to, but it prompted me to say Chris Middleton because of that very reason.
Sure.
Yes.
He has a player option for next year. I don't think he's going to forfeit that in a buyout. Typically, the buyout guys are in the last year of their deal.
Yeah.
I'll just let you know.
Okay.
Lonzo Ball.
Yeah, I would be interested in that.
I would be interested in that. That is the guy who
100%.
I'm the most interested in. Now, I think recently he still was not playing in back-to-backs. So it's not like he's all the way there, but obviously as a bigger guard.
You have Grimes.
Good
that
shooter.
Helps too.
Yeah, I mean, having Grimes probably like reduces the need for Lonzo a little bit, but just on a team where your backup ball handlers have been so bad and, you're so limited, you're just trying to find the best 9 players. Lonzo can fit in a lot of systems. So I would certainly welcome bringing him aboard. Obviously,
Sure.
Taller player, good catch and shoot guy. Again, a guy who's been limited by injuries over the past few years. So that's kind of the big name who's out there. Maybe there's somebody else who wriggles
that we
free,
don't even know about.
Who we don't know about.
Right.
But anyway, they will be able to sign whoever they want on the buyout market. And
I
a
like
lot of
that
these more
idea.
expensive teams, they actually can't sign them. It's part of the rules.
Yeah.
Where they wanted to make it more punitive to be a super expensive team and say one of the loopholes is, these buyout guys, they get free and you can just sign them. Well, they actually can't sign them if these guys were making a lot of money.
Yeah, so it takes a lot of teams off the table, and if they really want to and play for a contender or a team like the Sixers, who was supposed to be a contender, underperformed this year, that's a really good name. So the one thing that I've always heard about both the Ball brothers, before LaMelo signed his extension with the Charlotte Hornets, there was...
You're not going to mention the rapper?
Not a chance.
No? Okay.
No, he sucks.
Well, he's clearly the worst at basketball of the three of them.
Well,
as
he's better than me, so I can't say he sucks.
He's much better than
in
me,
that way. But so the one thing that I heard about the two brothers were before LaMelo signed that extension, there was a buzz about him being the one that would buck the trend of coming off your rookie deal, not signing the extension, to return to Los Angeles. And while Lonzo was drafted and did play out there, eventually traded, as we know, to New Orleans, and then signing with the Chicago Bulls, dealing with the injuries that he has sustained with his knees and his ankles and all that he was dealing with. It was also a conversation, even as early as this summer and the start of the season, that if and when he does come back, they want him to come back home. Now, as you just bring up that particular point of the teams that are high up in salary, over the tax and all, they can't sign players like him. So that would take those two franchises, specifically Clippers and Lakers, out of the running to where he cannot go there.
No.
He would have to go elsewhere, and there's a very limited number of teams, again, playoff contention, and if he wants to showcase himself on a playoff stage, the Sixers would be an intriguing type because they are most likely going to be in the play-in, and we'll see what happens once they eventually get there. So that's the best name. The Ben Simmons one is fun, and we can all have fun with that.
It would be a nice story.
See what that looks like. And he said the things about, I regret not handling Philadelphia better, and the fans were fantastic, and I didn't handle that situation much better. By the way, his brother still lives in the area, and he goes to Sixers games, of course, from time to time, kind of quietly. But that said, the Lonzo Ball one as a buyout candidate is the best one.
Sure. I mean, that's somebody who just knows how to play too, right? Like some guy who...
Make things easier for your big man.
He's,
and what would that do? Make things easier for your big man.
Obviously, he was a very high pick in the draft. The Lakers probably wish they would have drafted the guy the Celtics picked a pick after.
No doubt.
But he's also a guy who has fit into being a very good role player because he's so smart. He's a good passer. He's become a much better shooter over his career. I think that guy, Fred Vinson in New Orleans, the guy who's the shooting doctor down there, did a very nice job with his weird form to make it.
It wasn't necessarily the form; it was the hitch.
Yeah,
that really, really funky hitch to get the shot off.
So, and Canoli asks, why would Lonzo sign with the Sixers? And it's a great question. I don't know exactly why he would sign with the Sixers.
Well,
maybe it's opportunity.
I
would have to look at the list of teams, though, Canoli, and say a lot of the best teams in the league.
Let's look at the playoff teams too.
Are expensive.
Right. Yeah.
And they actually can't sign him is kind of what we were talking about. So maybe the Sixers can kind of slide in and be the best opportunity for playing time, playing in the playoffs and potentially all that stuff.
That's it.
And also just having the ability to sign him. I don't know if that's the case. There could be, a top 4 seed that actually has a spot for him and maybe he wants to go there. I don't know. But that could be the one move that they make there.
Yes. So my thing is that it's the fact that there are a limited number of teams playing opportunity because you look at the guards, and while you still have the bigger guards, we'll give you the starting lineup here shortly. You're looking at Oubre as a starter, potentially, or Grimes as a starter with Paul George and Yabusele is slotted in at that 4 spot. There's going to be some time there for him to be out there on the floor as a bigger guard with Grimes, with Maxey, certainly with Embiid, where he can showcase Canoli if they get into the postseason on that stage where he has not been able to do that because, number one, he hasn't been able to play, and number two, because Chicago hasn't been there. If they get in, of course, it's a big if, and that's going to be a gamble that he takes, there are still a lot of regular season, nationally televised games that the Bulls didn't have that the 76ers will have, and that he would be able to show off whatever he does, in fact, have in his game, that the big contract that he hopes to get or cash out a little bit in the offseason, that will be available for him because of an opportunity like this one. That would be my argument.
And sometimes the younger buyout guys, and Lonzo still is pretty young. If he can stay healthy, he's got a decent amount of time left to play in the NBA, but he's definitely got to stay healthy. That's been the big issue with him. It's been a great story, him coming back this year. Certainly a guy that I would root for. The thing with some of these younger guys, some of them are not ring chasers, Devon. Some of them, like you said, just want to be showed off so they can get the best contract that they can get the next year. It's funny. The one that I remember is 2019, and everybody thought around here, oh, the Sixers, they're the buyout kings because they did Ilyasova and Bellinelli the year before, and they struck gold, and those guys were much better than your average buyout guy. Limited, probably a little overrated in future years, but very good buyout signings at that point, playing with Ben Simmons at the end of that season and even into the playoffs. And I thought, okay, the Sixers are going to be at the top of the buyout market. And they weren't. I remember the next year, Wes Matthews was one of the big names, and I was like, perfect fit. Sixers got a very...
Milwaukee?
It was, no, it was Indiana, who were worse than the Sixers at that point. So sometimes maybe the Sixers can be Indiana. They can be worse, but they can offer a little bit more playing time. Okay, so that is potentially what they could get from this move. The other thing to look out for, Devon, as Derek pointed out, the Sixers in the next day, the big thing to look for is trading both Andre Drummond and Eric Gordon, because that matters for next season. Derek speculated that, because we've talked a lot about, are they going to be able to sign Yabusele? Are they going to be able to sign him? And Derek said, all right, with the savings, it seems like they're trying to, maybe they'll try and bring Yabu back, and maybe they'll try and give him the bigger mid-level exception, the one that's restrictive, the one that locks you into that second apron. They need to clear Drummond and Gordon's salary for next year. They gave both of those guys player options, believe it or not. So I don't know exactly who would take those guys. It's funny. I want to give Mike Levin some credit because he pointed out maybe Orlando, because they're so bad at three-point shooting. They're just like unbelievably awful.
A bunch of athletes, but no shooters.
They're
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was also signed for that reason.
And he's been disappointing.
Right.
So, would they just take Eric Gordon? Would they be happy to take him? Because hey, man, at least you can make threes, and our offense is starved right now. Paolo and Franz, they got nowhere to drive. They're playing really bad basketball right now. I'm a little surprised. I know
they're in the play-in.
I was impressed with those guys initially when those guys went down because Franz was playing well when he was playing against the Sixers, and Paolo came back. They have both of those guys back, I believe, now, and they're really struggling. So I think that's the big move to look for. It's not that exciting, but that actually would increase their flexibility for next season. But in closing here, let's not talk about flexibility being gained by this KJ Martin trade. It's not what happened. Maybe there's more cash spend for the Washington Commanders next year, but I'm not buying this for the Sixers. It's not good, and it kind of sucks, man. Like KJ Martin is a guy that you and I, when this team was stinking the joint up in December, we were enjoying watching.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's a world beater, but I don't know, like his degree of athleticism. We watched him play defense over the past few nights. I would like to watch KJ Martin play defense right now. And so to give him up and have to attach 2 second-round picks, not the end of the world, but like not a great piece of business.
Yeah.
Not a great piece of business.
Yep, absolutely. All right, that was the breakdown there from Rich on the trade. All of your thoughts in the chat, we certainly appreciate those. Move on a little bit to the trade deadline. And that is, again, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Some things did go down. Sixers not related in those. But, of course, doesn't mean that things won't happen tomorrow just because you saw the 2 moves so far. But Shams Charania from ESPN reported earlier that the Washington Wizards were trading Jonas Valanciunas. Remember, he signed that big contract in the summer, and everybody was like, well, why are you doing that? Well, it was because of the money and with the possibility of being moved at this point. He's going to the Sacramento Kings for City Sissoko, I think is how you pronounce it. Yeah, and 2 second-round picks. So Valanciunas to the Sacramento Kings. It's very interesting with Sabonis in the front court with him. It's interesting. Starter, backup, especially with Keegan Murray as a starter.
You can't play those guys together.
I know. So Keegan Murray's a starter. You got the 2 guards.
Maybe in FIBA play for Lithuania.
Yeah, Levine and DeRozan. And then you also have Malik Monk, who's getting a lot of point guard run, if you will.
Playing pretty well.
Yeah. So interesting one, huh?
Yeah. I'm not really feeling the Kuzma move for the he's been bad for the Bucks.
Yeah, the Kuzma move for the Bucks, Chris Middleton to Washington.
I know Chris has been old and he's been hurt and all of those things, but
he fit what they did, and Kyle Kuzma is not him as a replacement. I don't think.
Kuzma, he was, probably like the 3rd or 4th best player on that Lakers bubble team, but it's not. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not buying it. He's played a lot of nonsense ball in Washington since then. It's been terrible for the Wizards this year. Actually, a couple of years ago when he played for Washington, I thought he was actually pretty good. Yeah, I'm not really seeing that.
When you're in that type of situation, the stink just kind of gets all over you, right? And the things that showed up before it actually happened, where he turned into a good player for that championship team with the Lakers, that stink has now gone, and being in that Washington situation for as long as he has, he's reverted back to the early Kyle Kuzma, where people were questioning the type of player that he is. And I don't. Do they think that Doc Rivers is going to be able to do something there with him, and the 2 superstars are going to be able to?
Maybe he's a little bit better, but I certainly don't think it's like a needle mover.
I mean, he's healthy, yes, but the impact is different. And Chris Middleton's defense, when he was at his peak, I thought that was one of the more underrated parts of his game. With the mid-range game, the ability to put the ball on the floor, play within the system. Kyle Kuzma's an out-of-control heat check type of shooter. Yeah, I just don't get that one.
I mean, when they won the title, the key play down the stretch, they wouldn't put the ball in Giannis's hands. They'd put the ball in Chris's hands, and they'd run pick and roll with Giannis.
And even last year when he came back from that injury, he was dropping 30 in that series until he couldn't anymore because the injury got back to him again. So interesting fit that we're going to see about Kuzma in that Milwaukee situation. Daniel Tice traded to the Thunder from the Pelicans. They get another big man to help out, playoff big man, just to help out with Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein. And that one is that. And the big one is Jaden Springer from the Celtics.
Oh, no.
Going to the Houston Rockets. Springer and a 2030 second-round pick. Former Sixer that you were looking to hunt down the other night when they played Boston.
Don't have to guard him.
He's going to Houston. I thought you would like that one.
Well, so it was funny because Celtics fans, they thought they had got one over on the Sixers.
Yes, they
were
did.
like, ooh, we got Jaden Springer. We're going to develop this guy. I mean, man, Bill Simmons last night, he was tweeting about, he was like, why aren't they playing Springer more? And I was like, man, he can't play offense, man. He's a nice kid, but he cannot play offense. And they traded him for apron and cap savings. So
Bill Simmons wasn't happy about it earlier today.
Yeah,
he was not. Yeah, he was not. So those are all the trades that went down. And there also is a report with all the Kevin Durant news going around, going back to Golden State. They're reporting, there is some reporting out there that he does not want to have a reunion with the Golden State Warriors at this time. So
ouch.
We'll see what happens. I don't know. Stranger things have happened. We are again less than 24 hours away from the NBA trade deadline.
Giving them the stiff arm before they can even make the move.
It's going to be a fun one. Apparently, it's only Phoenix or Miami for KD, and we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. All right, Joel Embiid is out tonight. As far as people asking about Quentin Grimes, is he in? Is he available to play? He's still not available because the trade is technically still pending because of Caleb Martin's physical in Dallas. So he's unavailable tonight. He will not play tonight. You're going to have to deal with Paul George and deal with that. So he is out. Quentin Grimes, you have to wait for his debut to be potentially on Friday against his former team, the Detroit Pistons. What do you make of Embiid being out? We already knew it, but he's out. Quentin Grimes also out, but Paul George in.
Well, it would be nice if they actually negotiate the back-to-back, because they have not been able to negotiate back-to-backs as far as like this year has been concerned. So you played Joel last night. He helps you get a win. PG, step on up.
Your turn, buddy. And you've been out for a shorter amount of time.
Play Yabu at the 5. And look, I think this is a game the Sixers can definitely win, right? They were
look at that.
They were very close to winning with this similar lineup minus Paul George against better teams in Boston and Denver. And obviously they had the good week against Sacramento and the Lakers last week. Winnable game. The Heat play in Chicago last night can definitely get this one.
Yep. Heat lost, by the way, to the Chicago Bulls last night, 133-124. And here's your starting lineup. Yabusele at the 5, as Rich pointed out. Paul George back in the front court with him. Justin Edwards staying right in that spot, Rich. He's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. And then you also have Kelly Oubre and Tyrese Maxey in the backcourt once again for the Philadelphia 76ers. So Yabusele, George, Edwards, Oubre, and Maxey. That rounds out your starting 5. And I'm guessing Ricky Council off the bench, Adem Bona.
Sure.
Andre Drummond is still out. So
that's part of the reason with Drum. I don't want Drum to play the rest of the year. I feel,
give Bona the run.
I would like to see Bona in that spot.
Sure.
More. Or Yabu, one of the two. And then if Joel's not available, then both of them, right? I don't know. Drum's been bad this year.
Yeah,
we talked about it.
He hasn't been good. So that's your starting 5. Let's get to our pregame pick segment brought to you by Bet365. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I'm on a solo mission tonight. We won last night. Richard said, you know what? I'm taking the night off.
Taking the night off.
We'll be back at it next week.
I'm going to be in the lab. Don't worry.
No doubt. Tonight, Tyrese Maxey, in honor of Rich. I went with the 4+ made threes tonight from Tyrese Maxey. He's going to be the hub of the offense.
Yes, he is.
And we know he's going to get cooking again against this Miami Heat team. Final game of the 6-game homestand. And combining that with a guy that I really liked in the draft. As you know, I was a big Khalil Ware guy.
You were the biggest guy of the 4 of us.
And since he's gotten the opportunity to play, he has shown why he was that pick for the Miami Heat. He has done a really nice job. Jared McCain, I'm thrilled with him on the 76ers, so I would not trade the 2. But the kid is playing some really good basketball. The synergy there with the other guards and wings, some lob threats, rebounding, running the floor, and he's showing his ability to stretch the floor like he did at Indiana. So that is the Bet365. It's 22.5. So guys, gals, I think it's a decent number overall, 22.5 points and rebounds. He's averaging right about that. Young legs, second night of a back-to-back. Joel Embiid is not out there. I think this is doable with Tyrese Maxey. That's a +200 same-game parlay for us at Bet365. Once again, you check in. Our pregame pick segment brought to you by Bet365. Use the code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Whenever I give these out, I play them with you guys. So We got you covered. Martian said 22.5 points per game is nasty work. It was 22.5 points and rebounds, if that's what you were talking about. I only saw it quickly, so I just wanted to make sure that that's exactly what you were pointing out. So make sure you do that. Must be 21 plus, physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, we'll be back after the game to discuss this one. Sixers and Heat. Can the Sixers close out? They already have a winning record. Can they make it a 4-2 record?
Big one.
To
Big
close
swing
out
game.
the
They're favorites
game.
tonight too, Devon.
Look at that.
1.5 point faves.
I said it last night. You were like, I'm not going there. I said, I think they get them.
Yeah.
They made us sweat, but they got them.
Maybe it's one of those back-to-backs where they sweat through the first one. They don't play that well. They sleepwalk. But weirdly, the second night, they got a little more energy.
I think they get them again.
Yeah.
I think they get them again. All right. For Rich, Bree, we'll talk to the guys after the game as well from the arena. All of you, thanks for hanging out with us on the PHLY Sixers pregame show. We'll be with you for the postgame show right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast presented by Bet365. Enjoy.
We all silly like the mayor.